All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show. I'm actually stoked because my brother from another mother is on this show, and somebody who I've run masterminds with, done consulting with, but has a completely different brain than mine, and he's an absolute savage at what he does. Same lens of marketing, but building systems and processes to help you master all the stages of your business to build and scale it. We talk about how really the number one pain point that he's seeing and all of his clients are facing in his agency when it comes to generating leads and how to generate them now and how to focus on moving the needle. How we talk about how most marketing automations breaks the results that people are looking for, focus, but how to use it on the right way, in the right way, and for the right reasons to accomplish the goals that you want. We talk about how entrepreneurship is a game of self-discovery, self-mastery. And because we've been friends for a long time and we've been locked in hotels together and done consulting together, he brought us some old stories from the past on how to really win the game, how to be creative in marketing, how to generate the results that we're looking for, and how to really focus on the right things when it comes to building and scaling your business, how to use automations the right way to nurture those relationships, and how to really build and scale by scaling the unscalable. We cover that. We have a lot of laughs. We have a lot of jokes, and we even open a loop for episode 2 because we're going to have to do an episode 2, and you'll hear about that and you'll see that coming. But without further ado, let's get into the show of my dear friend, Josh Jurkovich. Enjoy the ride. All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Mind of George Show. And today I am 100% fueled by caffeine and Coke Zero, and I'm just going to own it unapologetically because I have been running around with a chicken with my head cut off. And I just realized how horrible of a saying that is right now. And I've experienced that, so I apologize in advance. But I'm stoked. And if you're listening to this, you're listening in the future, but we're the day before the event. And I'm incredibly honored and excited. And today's guest is a brother of mine on so many levels. And it's just a reminder of God's sense of humor and how the life works, because today's guest is somebody that I've spent many nights in hotels with, done events with, had deep meetings, created models in the middle of the night, consulted companies with, worked together on. And we took a bifurcation, for lack of better terms, in the road, and then reconnected a couple of months ago. And it was like no time had passed. And the more that we share, we're like, you too? Oh, you too? Oh, you too? And it's just been this laughing chuckle on so many levels that I can't even explain. But I'm joined by my friend, Josh Jurkovich, and Josh is an absolute master at basically all of my weak points. I don't know, like operations and systems and running a successful agency and helping people build and scale and market their message and do so many things. And it's an honor to have him back. And I'm excited for him to share, because we were unpacking via text today because I made him wait and I was late because my barber went over because my mohawk had to look good. And, just normal life stuff that happens as an entrepreneur. And I'm excited to have him. So Josh, welcome to the show, brother.
Dude, I am so excited to be here. It's so funny how things come full circle all the time. I mean, we've known each other for a really long time. And yeah, we took a brief hiatus for whatever purpose God had that for. And reconnecting, as far as the timing and all of that, couldn't have been more perfect. And like, it's just so funny when you say like God has an amazing sense of humor, because it's like you tell me about an idea that you have or had a year ago when we weren't connected. And I'm like, dude, I have the entire map. I have that whole thing mapped. It's so awesome. And dude, it's one of those things where it doesn't matter how long you're not connected for. You're a brother of mine. You'll always be a brother of mine, your family. And I'm just honored to be here.
Brother, me too. And the funny thing about what you just said alludes to my intro as well, because the difference between you and I is I've had the idea and I can paint it in my vision. And you're like, I have an entire Miro board of it mapped out of what it would look like, of how it would be done. And that summarizes all of the work that we've done together up until this point in playing to our strengths, which is kind of a perfect lead in, because, in the lens, and for everybody listening, like Josh and I have spent copious amounts of time together, and we have the same values. We think about business the same. We think about people the same. We understand what truly, truly moves the needle. And Josh has his hands in a lot of people's businesses. And I think one of the biggest benefits of that is that you get to see your beliefs and the things that you teach applied to many different industries, many different businesses, and see the commonalities between them all. And you are an incredible marketer. You're an incredible systems person. Your agency is incredible. And you keep bumping up against kind of the same challenges that everybody's having. And right now, as of like 2024, I'll just kind of lead the horse and not get canceled. But I've been in the backside of a lot of meetings in the last month, founders meetings, 6, 7, 8, 9-figure businesses, and they're all screaming about the same problem, which is basically people value relationships now and they can't be transacted on. And it's not just a lead game, it's an actual caring game. And so I asked Josh to kind of tee up from his side and his experience, like what he is seeing. And I'm just going to move out of the way and let him unpack it, because not only will it probably make more sense, it's more applicable, and it's not so all over the spaghetti on the wall place like I do. And so, Josh, I'd love for you to kind of riff on that.
Yeah, thank you. So in the talking points, essentially what I want to talk about is this idea of scaling things that are not scalable. And that's the reason that I think 7, 8, 9, 10-figure companies are scrambling right now, because they figured out a lot of things and figured out a lot of systems and operations that scaled really well at one point in time. And all of this crap isn't working anymore. And everybody's like, and I actually had somebody ask me just last week, they're like, I thought Facebook ads weren't working anymore. I thought this wasn't working anymore. I thought email wasn't working anymore. And my response was, it's not that it's not working anymore. You just have to be better. And it's just uncanny to me the amount of times that I'll get somebody who approaches me, like, just to give you a little background really quick before I go into this. When I started my agency 2015, 2016, I got, I went into a lot of different rabbit holes, if you will, but where I really found my bread and butter was in marketing automation and trying to automate things to remove things from entrepreneurs' plates, right? So whether you're setting up an email sequence or an automated journey or whatever it is, right? I became an Infusionsoft partner, a HubSpot partner. I've partnered with almost every CRM that's out there because I wanted to know how they all work. And I really like digging into the details of that stuff up to an extent. And all of that stuff worked really, really well for a really long time until it didn't. And it's not that it doesn't work completely anymore. It's just the idea that, like, we have to be better than thinking a 20 to 25 to 30% open rate is good on our emails. Because the thing that we're not realizing is that 70 to 75% of our messages aren't getting answered by people that probably need our help. They probably need what we're offering them, and we're too lazy, or we want to get the thing at scale rather than helping people in an intimate way. And it just goes back to the same message that I think attracted to me when I sat next to you at the event when we met, which was the idea and your entire thing, which is that relationships beat algorithms, and they always have, and that's always been true. And so no matter what, you have the relationships that you have with your customers. Your customers are trusting you to help them get a result or help them solve a problem that they have in their lives, right? One of the things that we used to say in consulting is if you're an e-commerce business, right? The worst thing that you can do is sell somebody a product and have it go into their cupboard and never be used. Because we don't guide people to actually know how to use a product to actually get the results. So they saw some Facebook ad, it said that you're going to get X, Y, and Z result. And then you get it in the mail and you forget about it, and then you resent the company. And it creates this entire loop because you didn't have the ability to support them in a way that they needed to be supported. The reason that this point is showing up for me so much right now is that even recently I got an email list from somebody, and it was something like 45 to 50 people that they wanted to partner with and promote their thing. And they sent me the email list. They're like, how do I send an automated email to this whole list? And, they're a list of partners. We just had an entire presentation talk to them. And how do I send an email to the entire list? And I got a little bit of pushback because as the automations guy, I'm supposed to just say, yes, let me help you do that. Let me install the email sequence. Let me install the template. Let me upload the list and do all of that. But what I know based on the experience of what I've seen is that you're going to upload that list. They're cold. They never opted into anything. And you're going to send that email. And out of the 50 people, only 10 are going to open it and only 3 are going to take action. And I'm like, well, the return on time invested for me to do that for you isn't going to be very high. And more importantly, there are relationships and real people on the other side of every single one of those email addresses and on the other side of every single one of those phone numbers that what you offer can actually help. Mm-hmm. So do you think that it would be better for me to send a mass broadcast email to all these people and let them feel like they're just part of your email broadcast because you didn't personalize anything? Or would it be better to pick up the damn phone, sorry for my language, and call them, right? And so it goes back to the idea of scaling the unscalable, and relationships are unfortunately not scalable. And they're never going to be scalable. But the reality is the thing that's going to set people apart today in this market is the ability to create relationships with your customers over everything. It is so easy to stand out right now as a coach or a consultant if you actually are the person responding to a message, or if you actually are the person that is sending an email and it's one-to-one, or if you actually go to somebody's profile and legitimately engage with their content and actually watch it. Like, the bar is super low. I just want people to know that. Like, the bar is really, really low when it comes to these things, to stand out and to create authority for yourself, because nobody's willing to do the work because we're all too good. I'm too good to get into my own DMs. I'm too good to do that. And I was sold this CRM, and I was sold this thing, and I was sold this ManyChat thing, and it was supposed to automate all of that for me. And now I'm wondering why everything's broken, and I'm spending more time managing the automation systems than it would have taken me to just create the one-to-one relationship in the first place. And so it goes back to the entire idea that of when you kind of started doing a lot of your stuff with relationships beat algorithms, and the same thing that Ryan Dice said on stage in 2019 at Traffic and Conversions, which is that the future of marketing is scaling the unscalable. I remember sitting next to you at that event and looking at you and being like, dude, did he just take your stuff? Like, we've been talking about this.
Oh, I got about 50 text messages that day, and I was like, oh, that sounds eerily familiar.
Yeah. And so, go ahead.
I want to add some weight. I want to add some weight to what you said, right? Because I think that there's a lot of things, like, I've been in marketing for almost 17, 18 years now, right? And we see the world, we see marketing, we see business. It goes through seasons, right? And it goes through cycles. And the cycle that's appearing right now is the cycle of principles before the internet existed, right? I remind people that before we had Facebook ads, before we had Instagram, before we had all this free attention, there were people running 7, 8, 9-figure businesses because they were leveraging relationships. And then the advent of every single thing that you can imagine to get this attention, quite frankly, created laziness, for myself included, right? And I did it the wrong way. And I experienced a lot of growth and a lot of pain and a whole lot of lessons in the process. And, you know, you said something earlier when we used to consult, because I say all the time, I'm like, most entrepreneurs would always come to us or me and be like, what? I'm like, what's your biggest fear? And like, I can't get a customer. I'm like, wrong. You're going to go out of business. Like, your biggest fear should be that you get one and they don't get the result or use your product or service. And in the scaling the unscalable, I think that that's the trap that people fall into is, oh, I've made it, now I can remove myself. What you don't see is that you remove the inputs that created the result in the first place and then wonder where the results went. And so part of scaling the unscalable is removing all of the things that get in the way of you hitting those needle movers that created the result in the first place. And even with customer journey and the way that I teach it now, and I'm pretty bullish on this, you can automate relationships, but not the important inflection points, the path in between, to handle whatever expectations were communicated on, right? And every decision that somebody makes at every checkpoint of their journey, whether it's going from not knowing you to connecting with you to working with you and achieving the next goal, every one of those checkpoints and inflection points require that they feel safe. No one will ever feel safe from a robot to a human, but they will always feel safe with a human to human. But if you meet them at the checkpoint and then you automate the delivery of what you agreed upon until the next checkpoint, that's how you buy your time back and you scale the unscalable. And like, you know, we've seen this, and I'll share an example, and I'd even love some thoughts for you, but like, you know, it's the analogy that I still use that's like broken recordy is like, what's your chance of your marriage working if the night you leave the altar, you relegate your marriage to an automated text message once a week? Like, good luck, you're divorced, right? But then in the same bucket, I have friends that I love and I'm horrible at birthdays, horrible at reminders. And so I use tools that remind me of their birthdays, but also at the beginning of the year, I sit down and I pre-write and pre-schedule their custom greeting cards to go out on their anniversary and to go out on their birthday and the day that we met. And I have it set up so that a week before it goes out, it shoots me an email telling me it's going out. And then I pick up my phone and I send them a message, right? And so there are ways to do this, but we have to remember that relationships are at the core of everything. And what we're really dealing with is we're dealing with people's fears, their trauma, their insecurities, the things that they're challenged with. And then we expect them to invest money in somebody that doesn't make them feel safe. And like, when was the last time you were standing at a store and you're like, oh, you treated me like crap, you made me feel unsafe, I'm so excited to give you my credit card. And so I think the belief here is that, and the challenge here is that we all kind of got lazy, and there was complacency and complicitness. Complacency from the people who pre-COVID were like, I'm going to join this and I'm going to buy this. I'm going to buy this course and never open it and never use it because the world was in a different place. But then the complicitness of us thinking that removing ourselves from relationships and removing ourselves from people's results, we're actually going to get somebody results, when in actuality, we were just creating an anti-marketing machine of a ton of people that had no evidence that what we did worked. And so I just want to add weight to everything that Josh said, because it's so spot on, and it's the same thing that we see currently. And I'd actually kind of love to hear, Josh, like maybe like a thought or an example, because like the picking up the phone is like a good one, but even right now, like I have a private client that's 7 figures a year, right? Incredible offer. And they couldn't figure out what was happening. They're like, our sales calls aren't working anymore. People aren't converting. And I was like, what's changed? And I just started looking back, and I started to see where the dwindling happened. And the dwindling was when said person was removed from the front and the touch point wasn't there. And then we reinserted said person right on the front, took everything off her calendar that was getting in the way of that touch point. And all of a sudden sales went from 8% to 50%. And so it's almost like we take the star player off the field and the reason that people came in the first place. And then we wonder where the results go.
Yeah. So, there were two things, and to answer your question in a moment, but there were two things that really stuck out to me that I see, and I'm kind of bullish on right now as well. The entire market is moved.
Go, bro.
Yeah, the entire market, from what I can see, in the coaching space, consulting space, and even marketing and business growth, et cetera, is moving a lot from courses to community. And what I mean by that is we went from a place where people were making a crap load of money selling courses, but even though they knew, or maybe they didn't know, but about 3 to 5% of people actually ever finish a course and get the result. And that's the reason that we're seeing a lot of coaching programs or courses or things like that starting to dwindle, because they're realizing that the people don't get the results that they promised at the beginning. Of course, they would get the results if they went through the entire course and spent the 15 hours inside of it. But people want faster results and faster action, and they want prescription. And so some of the most successful programs that I've seen at this point actually have the personalized coaching element in it with prescriptive training throughout the course. And what I mean by this is, let's say, for example, so I can draw a picture for you. Let's say, for example, I deal with 9 pillars in a business. 3 of them are in marketing, 3 of them are in sales, and 3 of them are in fulfillment. Well, when I start to talk to you, what we'll probably do is like a 6-week game plan or something like that. And in that 6-week game plan, I'm going to figure out where your real problems or struggles are. And when I'm first starting out, I haven't gained, and that's the second point that I want to talk about, I haven't gained any leverage because I haven't recorded any trainings. I haven't learned what I needed to. So the second point is leverage. But in that, I'm going to identify where the real roadblocks are. And if I haven't gained leverage, then over the next 6 weeks, I'm going to help you specifically with those roadblocks. If I have gained leverage, then I've already recorded trainings and playbooks and a lot of really cool stuff that I can just point you in the right direction inside of the course to exactly what module to take so you can get the result faster without all the fluff. And so the leverage thing is really important. And a tangible example of what you're talking about is very simple. It's like, man, I don't want to be messaging people every single day. I don't want to be in my Instagram Messenger. I don't want to be in all those things. And it's like, you don't actually have to, right? I remember one thing that you told me, it was a couple years ago, but I think that there was some sort of email list and you guys looked up the most common first names on the entire list, and there was like 50 of them, and you had the CEO record a video for each one of the first names, saying each one of the first names, and then you automated it so it looked like it was personalized. And I'm like, that is really cool. You can actually do that. It's crazy. But the other piece is like, if you want a touch point with somebody at the very beginning of a process, like all that I need is I need my technology to work for me. I don't need to work for my technology. And what I mean by that is task lists and automation and project management tools and CRMs and all that stuff is great. But I think that you said one thing that was key. Relationships are the center of everything. But I think that where a lot of people went is they made their CRM or their technology the center of everything. And as
Yes.
somebody who sells CRMs, that's kind of crazy for me to say, right? But it's not about what the CRM can do for you. It's about the inputs that you put into it to make it actually work. And more importantly, what's the difference when I'm creating a sequence of setting up an email versus a task? The task would
Mm-hmm.
send to my Slack or whatever, however I want to be notified to do the thing. And I can just record a Loom video to say, hey, what's going on, Johnny? Welcome to Extract Media. I'm so excited that you downloaded my lead magnet. If you have any questions, hit me up here. This is exactly what I do. And I respond personally to all of my messages. It's not
Mm-hmm.
that much more work, that extra 20 or 30 seconds. And if you batch them, you can do 20 of them in 30 minutes. But
Yep.
what you'll notice is exactly what you said. Your sales rate will go from 5% to 50%.
Yep.
Now, is that 30 minutes worth it? I think so. I think so. 5% to 50%. Let's say, and let me just do some math there, right? Let's say I have an ad budget of 50 or of 10 grand a month. And that 10 grand a month is getting me a 5% conversion rate. So I'm paying $10,000 for 5%. If I multiply that to 50%, and that's a really big number. So let's just say if I multiply that to 30%, that's a 6x increase in return. That means my ad
Yep.
spend will feel like I'm spending 60,000 instead of 10. So you're talking about a
Yep.
difference of $50,000 for 30 minutes of your time in the morning. And this
Yep.
is where the laziness comes into play. It's like, we don't want to
Yep.
do it. We want to be out on our houseboat or whatever it is. And we don't want to do the extra one little touch point that is going to make all of the impact and all of the difference. So when somebody joins the RBAA and when somebody joins one of the calls, they feel a personal connection to you and they trust
Yep.
you and they know you and they like you and they feel safe because
Oh,
that,
bro. Okay. Oh, yes. 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 Like, I'm like, oh, yes. Right. And two things that I want to hit on. Number one is to really, really drive this home is what you were talking about is like what's changed with courses. Right. So at the beginning of the year, I recorded a podcast. And I was like, I promise you there's three things that you're going to want to focus on if you want to win in 2024 and beyond. It's community, endowment, and implementation, like actual results, right? People need evidence that what you're doing can actually help them. They need endowment, meaning they need touch points with you to feel safe and be in a relationship with you. And they need community, an aspect of connection for that accountability, right? And I harped on this so hard. And I had to take my own medicine, quite frankly, because there were spots where I fell out or I get out of it, or I had some ingrained habits from previously that I'm like, oh, these were working, but it doesn't mean they're going to work forever. And it's kind of back to the drawing board. And the second thing, and to really, really drive this home, is like I always use fitness as an example, right? If everybody really wanted to lose weight, tell me that you can't find every workout and every meal plan on the internet for free. Of course you can. But what people pay for is access and accountability to be supported in the process, to have somebody guide them and walk next to them, not do it for them, but to be there for that extra push and that extra piece. And there was a season, and even when you and I met back like 2016, 2017, where there was this massive, massive mechanism of like, just make a course, make $1 million. But what everybody wasn't thinking about was the long-term effects of that, which how many people used that course? How many people got results with that course? It was really like on to the next, on to the next. And we saw it. We're like, oh, they have another course. Oh, they have another course. But if you want to scale a business, you have to get results. And scale comes from retention, not acquisition. And you can't retain people if they're not getting results. And there's this level of understanding, like even as an entrepreneur, right? Like every successful person I've ever interviewed, but myself included, they all share one thing in common is they don't remove themselves from the equation. They reinvent themselves to get a better result for those people. But everyone that I've ever scaled, all the $1 million companies, $10 billion companies, they all share one thing in common. Everybody they sell to gets results or gets really, really a lot closer to where they want to be, not just buys a product. And at the beginning of the show, you said this, and it's shocking to me, right? Like I joke about this all the time. Like I shouldn't have a job. Relationship speed algorithms shouldn't even exist. Like it's like, hey, be a decent human being, like care about people, right? But you also said it right now too. The whole world has been conditioned that nobody cares, that everybody has an agenda. They're just trying to get a credit card. And one of our scripture statements is you're guaranteed to lose on width and you're guaranteed to win on depth. But we've never lived in a more opportune time when depth was taking 10 seconds to actually let somebody know that you appreciate them reaching out. or taking 30 minutes a day to batch record actual connection points. And one of the easiest ways to remember this for everybody listening is if you imagined that your business, your online business existed in the real world and you had a brick and mortar, would you treat people in person the way that you do online? Would you let them walk through the front door, say hi, and then stare them in the eyes or ignore them, or be like, hold on, let my robot talk to you, or read them a script off a piece of paper? Right. Like one of the easiest ways is just to reframe what's happening. And, you know, we talk about marketing, we talk about sales all the time, right? But when you're doing content, especially in 2024, there's really only three things that you're trying to accomplish. You're trying to get more eyeballs, right? Views or exposure. You're nurturing or you're converting. But converting is not converting to a sale. It's converting to a conversation to build a relationship for you to earn that sale. And that's the biggest part that everybody is missing. And they're like, oh, I spent, 30 days posting reels and getting them to DM me. And then I just made them an offer and they didn't take it. And I was like, can you spit on your hand first? Like, can you take them out to dinner? Can you ask them how their morning is doing? Right. And I find the hardest part, Josh, and I see this all the time, is if we put ourselves through our own systems, we'd run the other way. And then we wonder why the people that we're trying to work with don't come in.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love that framework.
I had to add what Josh said.
Sorry. So I love that framework though.
No, I was
like,
going to say, I had to add to what you said.
Yeah, for sure. So eyeballs.
Oh, the visibility, the nurture, convert.
No, the eyeballs, the
Yes,
nurturing and converting, right?
nurture,
One
convert.
one of the things that
it's the VNC model. I haven't taught it public anywhere. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just had I haven't taught it publicly anywhere, but it's not exposure. It's visibility, nurture, and convert. It's all of your content, all of your marketing fits into one of those buckets. And they're also independent buckets. They're not all done in the same post or in the same content. They're done in a measurement window of either visibility, nurturing, or converting.
Yeah, I love that. Well, so one thing that showed up a lot for me lately is the idea of email nurturing almost going away. And what I mean by that is one of the first things I have people do on like a welcome email, or if somebody downloads a lead magnet or something like that, is the biggest win is to get somebody to follow you on their favorite social platform. Because social media is not about getting new leads or new customers. It's about nurturing the existing relationships that you have. That's why it's social media. It's you having a social relationship because you're at a party that the other people are at too, and they invited you to have a conversation with them in some way, or you invited them to have a conversation with you. And that is where you nurture your clients. That is where you nurture your customers. You don't do it with a long email sequence. Your one email a week or whatever it is isn't going to do the trick. If you're not showing up on social media where they spend their time, then you're not at their party. And if you're not at their party, they're not going to invite you in and feel safe to have you come and help them with whatever the thing is or whatever the problem is that you solve. And so again, engaging with somebody's content or engaging with their story or actually giving a heartfelt or a thought out response to something that they post is going to make all the impact and all the difference in the world. And yeah, it takes some time. It's not an easy thing to do. And, George, you used to tell a story on how you posted something, I can't remember, but it ended up keeping you up for 16 hours personally responding to every single message that came through to you. But that was what you believed in, because you believed in personally responding, even though even at that time, you probably could have used something to automate, or you could have used a copy and paste thing or whatever you wanted to do, but you spent the time to do it. And you ended up getting a crap load of business out of that, from what I remember. And, that's,
I can actually, I'm, oh, go ahead.
No, you're good.
There was a delay. Keep going.
Oh, I was just going to keep going.
I was going to say, I'll give.
Yeah, there is a delay.
There we go. Pause. I'll give weight to what you just said, because I think it's important. And you hit two things. Number one, the principle. And I share this with everybody, and Josh knows this better than anybody, because Josh met me when I was in that transition. Like Caveman was just on its way out, and I was like fully stepping into this. And I made a rule as a food blogger, because I didn't know anything about business, that if somebody took the time to comment on my blog, I had to respond, because that's the only thing I knew what to do. I was like, it makes no sense to ignore them. So from day one, I had a rule that like every comment gets a response, every DM gets a response. And for credence here, in my entire career of making content, and I've been making content since 2010, I've only had one video go viral, and it's the video that Josh is talking about. And it's when I made a commitment to go live every day when I got really sick of Periscope and Meerkat, but then Facebook launched live streaming. And I was like, oh, the algorithm's broken, nothing's working. I was like, I'm just going to go live every day. I have no idea what I'm going to talk about. Some days I was sad, I was grumpy, I was angry. And I'll never forget this day. I turned the live stream on Facebook. And oh, and by the way, going live every day added 120,000 followers and fans when the algorithm was broken. It's like relationships work. But I went live and I was really sad. Like I was in the thrux of my depression. I was like really struggling with PTSD. Like I was having suicidal ideations. I was still an opiate addict. Like there was a lot going on. And I went live and I was like, I don't want to be here today. Like this is really, really hard for me. And then somebody asked me a question and they asked me what I was struggling with. And I just got really honest. And I was like, I've been bulimic, I've been blank. And so this one video on my cooking blog turned into like a 1 hour live stream about my eating disorder and my depression and my boom, boom, boom. And then all of a sudden I woke up the next morning and it had 6.5 million views. And I was like, holy moly. And there was like 7,000 comments. I didn't pitch anything. I didn't sell anything. I didn't talk about anything. And I was like, if all these people took the time to leave me a comment in support of me, I'm going to respond and I'm going to thank them. And I did. I responded to every message and it took me like 20 something hours. And then the craziest thing happened is after I responded to everybody, a giant chunk of them was like, we want to be around you more. We want to work with you. How can we work together? And that one live video ended up making like $225,000. And when I used to keynote on this, I used to ask people, I'm like, how many people would love to have a video with 6 million views? And how many people would love to have 7,000 comments? And everyone's hand goes up, right? And then my favorite one is like, how many of you would respond to every comment? And like, not as many hands go up. And I ask it again and I ask it again. And I was like, but this was the byproduct of responding to every comment for the previous 4 years and then having those relationships. And I ended up making an offer for those people that they asked for. And it was one of like the best days I've ever had. But it wasn't because of that moment. It was because of the principles and the beliefs leading up to it. Right. And the easiest analogy to remember is like the only time you go to competitions is to pick up your trophy because you win the game in practice. Right. And so that's the story that Josh is talking about.
Yeah, for sure. That's so incredible. I'd say you probably wouldn't even be sitting in this chair right now in this same way if that hadn't happened. And that's pretty crazy.
Nope,
because
I wouldn't. Hands down, I wouldn't.
Yeah, at that point you were a civilized caveman. That was the opening of the new deal. You know, that kind of brings me to my next point, and this is something that has been really showing up for me a lot lately too. And it's the idea that like I really wish both for myself, because this is something I struggle with as an entrepreneur, but I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with this, the idea of focus and focusing on the next most important thing. Mm-hmm. And the one message that I wanted to give to people is I get this objection all the time. It's like, man, if I did that thing and it worked, then I'm going to have to do this other thing and I'm going to have this other problem. And they look 5 steps down the line at the problem that is going to create. And they say, well, that's not going to scale. I'm not going to be able to do that. I'm going to have to spend 25 hours sitting behind my computer responding to every comment. They say they want to go viral, but then they don't want the result of that. And one of the things I always tell people is like, look, what you have to continue doing is creating the next new problem. No matter what problem you solve, you're always going to create a new one. And that new problem is going to get solved, and that's going to create a new one. And every single time you're creating a new problem and solving that problem, and that's the entire cycle of business as you grow and scale, because you're always growing and always becoming something and someone new, right? You're always transitioning and growing your identity into the new person that you're becoming as you grow with your clients and as your clients grow with you, so on and so forth. And so the one thing I wanted to say is you don't need that thing that you think that you need. And what I mean is back in the day, we grew the mastermind pretty large without even having a website. And the number of people that I see approach agencies and the number of agencies that unethically sell stuff that people don't need is insane. But the idea is like, you probably don't need a huge branding package. You probably don't need a gigantically built website. You probably don't need a lot of the stuff that you think that you need when you're first starting out. What you do need is simple, and it goes back to point number 1. You need solid relationships with a few people that you like and that you can help. That's it. If you're just starting out, find 3 to 5 people that you like, that you want to spend time with, and that you know you can help. And then the game of business becomes easy, because then you just have to find 3 to 5 more. And then you can bring them together in a community. And then you can grow that community. And then you can work with them one-on-one, or go deeper, or work with people and make them even more, and prove out your systems. And actually, what ends up happening in this process, I heard a statistic not too long ago, and it was something like 95% of business owners aren't in the same business that they started 5 years later, because they change and they meld, and their customers teach them things, and they learn new things about themselves, and they discover things. Like, entrepreneurship is a game of self-discovery, really. And as you discover yourself and who you are and what you really want and what you're good at and what you're not good at, you're also going to discover how you can help people and how you can serve and provide the most value in the marketplace, if that's what you care about. Right. Like, and that goes back to something you said earlier. It's not about how much money can I make. It's about how many people can I help. Right. You said something like, it's not about how many of these things I sell. It's about how many of the things that I sell that get the result that I promised the people it would get them. And so if your vision, or if your goal, or like, I want anybody listening to this to visualize, because you might be driving or something like that, but to visualize what your goal sheet looks like. And maybe just think about, or consider, if your main goal is a number, and that number represents a monetary value, it might be a little bit backwards. And what I mean is that monetary value is a lagging result of a leading indicator that should be your actual goal. Money is a lagging result. Money comes after you give value. Your goal should be to give value. And if you set your goal to give value, money will always follow that. I believe that's why the Bible says you can't serve 2 masters. Jesus said you can't serve both God and money, because you'll either love one and despise the other, or love the other and resent the other. I can't remember exactly what the verse says, but it's something like that. And I think the reason for that is money serves God. Money serves your purpose. Money serves your vision, the way that you serve people. And that's the lagging indicator, or the lagging result. So if you're aiming at the thing that is actually the result of the other thing, then you should actually be aiming at the other thing. And so keeping that in mind is really going to help you laser focus on whatever the next most important thing is. And I think that's the core and the foundation of everything that you teach, because you can't actually get people results without a relationship with that person. Like, it's insane. Like, you can't. It's just impossible, because like, the reality is, if I get on a call with somebody, like, I have a tendency to be really direct with people. I took this personality test thing, and it said that I'm very high in compassion and very low in politeness. And essentially what that means is that I really, really care, and I have no ability to sugarcoat things. But how that shows up, or how that ends up coming out in coaching calls and training calls, is that I just tell people directly what I know that they need to hear. And it's not necessarily in a polite way, but it's because I really, really care about the results that I know that I can get, because I see and I envision in somebody the best version of what I know they can become. And so laser focusing on creating that value and creating those things is really, really important. And then if you are in the camp of, oh my God, that's not scalable, I can't grow that, like, there's this other idea that I've been talking about a lot lately, is like, the difference between the guy that's been in business for 5 or 10 years and the guy that's just starting out is that every single week, or every single month, or every single time he has an idea, he's saving himself 5 or 10 minutes of something, or he's either getting more efficient, or he's gaining leverage in some way, whether you automate something, or you optimize some sort of process, or you delegate it, or you are working with AI. Like, oh my God, don't even get me started. Should we talk about AI?
No, that's a whole nother podcast we're gonna have to do. Let's not open that can of worms when we're like getting near landing the plane, or we will be here all day. But I do want to, I do know, this is why I love Josh so much. Like, I could listen to Josh all day. This is what we used to do in hotel rooms. And then we'd like record videos in the middle of the night. Yeah. And, you said a couple of things, but focus being one of the massive ones, and even tying it together in the beginning with relationships, one of the easiest reminders for myself, because everybody listening knows this, like I was a Marine, 3 colors of crayons in my box, right? So I need simple reminders. And most of the scripture statements and the things I say to you guys and everybody is for my own reminders as well. And Josh was in my world when we didn't have a website, we didn't have social media, we didn't even have really email. It was all relationships. And I was doing multiple 7 figures a year. And one of the things that I remind myself, and now it's one of the things that I say to my clients, is like, you have to earn the right to complicate your business, because most of the time the complication and complexities get in the way of what really moves the needle, which is the relationships and the focus on those relationships. And even to speak to your point about entrepreneurship being a game of like self-mastery and self-discovery, who would have thought that I went from Marine to food blogger, to consultant, to personal development coach, to breathwork facilitator, to whatever the heck I do now, which I can't even tell you. It's some customer journey stuff and some business, but really it's helping you find the hidden blocks in your life and removing them to hit the next level through any of those tools or modalities. But if I was continue down that same path, I'd probably have 6 cookbooks and an empty soul, because I really never liked cooking. It was for me to get out of pain and out of trauma and beat my bulimia. But we also forget that when we shift our identity or when we have new clarity, it doesn't mean we get to pick up on the 20-yard line. It means we have to start back at 0 sometimes and go right back down to the basics. And the truth is about building businesses, and Josh can see this as well, and scaling businesses, is that 99% of the time when I go into companies, I remove all the things that got in the way of the things they were doing in the beginning and help them protect those needle movers again and build processes around them to keep them going. And that's what gets to that next level. But that's really focusing on the relationships and the leading indicators, right? Like I always say this too, Josh, the revenue comes after an equal sign. It requires an input and a person to help to equal that revenue. It's not that you just go out and look for revenue. Like even if you want to get in the manifestation game, like I want to manifest $1 million. Well, you can sit there with your thumb up your butt as long as you want, but nothing's changed. You have to go do something and put it into a process to create that result. And so those leading indicators are the inputs that we put in. And in 2024, and even for the last couple of years when people told me I was crazy and we were talking about relationships 5-6 years ago, and they're like, it doesn't matter. Well, guess who's calling now? It always mattered. Yeah. And it's really focusing on those relationships and not only earning the right to complicate the business, but keeping it simple so you can be focused on those and not getting in the way of the results. You nailed this. And I love that you said this. A relationship is required to get results for people. And it doesn't matter if it's a low ticket offer, a high ticket offer, a product, a service, a consulting business. Like you have a relationship with your barista at the coffee shop, which is why you keep going back to the same place. The reason you choose a dry cleaner over the other 20 options with loyalty is because of a relationship. The reason you have your tax people, the reason you buy certain products, right? If nobody had relationships with those brands, you'd buy anything that's on the shelf. Why do you keep buying the same one, even though there's a cheaper option? It all boils down to relationships. And it's not hard to be in one. It's intentional and just requires that we focus on the right things. And that intentionality is what makes the scalable or the unscalable scalable. Because even when you look at big companies and companies that we scaled up into the huge marks, we didn't do it by disconnecting from people. We did it by connecting with more people deeper. And then they stick around longer, and then they recommend their friends, because when their friends come in, they know they're going to have the same experience. And then you get brand loyalty. And so there's so much wisdom packed into what Josh has like even shared today. And so Josh, before I go any further, where is the best place for people to connect with you, to build a relationship with you? Like where should everybody find you? Like Instagram, Facebook, website, whatever it is that you have, like the one best place for people to connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always on Facebook Messenger. Just DM me. Just find Josh Jurkovich, the personal profile, or Joshua M. Jerkovich, or on Instagram, also Josh Jerkovich. I'm really easy to find. If you message me, you're actually going to hear back from me.
There's not many Josh Jerkoviches.
No. So yeah, Instagram or Facebook is the best way.
But, and guys, I'm gonna put everything in the show notes for Josh as well. And Josh, I do want, and here's what we're gonna do. After the event, we'll schedule round 2 and we'll go deep into AI and all the open loops that we left for people, because we have to now, because you opened the loop for me. And I'm like, I haven't had this talk. And I'm so ready to have this talk, and I'll let you drive that one, but like we'll schedule a round 2 to hit this. But I would love to like just ask like one final question. And this is so we can land the plane and everybody here can go chew on all of these incredible nuggets and perspectives and shifts. And if you imagine that everybody listening to this just forgot everything that we said, like absolutely everything, but right now, whatever you say, they're going to take with them forever. And you're going to tattoo it in their soul. Like, what would your tattoo wisdom be for them in the lens of life, or anything that we shared, or anything that you want them to carry forward with them?
There's a verse in a scripture that was showing up for me yesterday, and it was talking about faith, hope, and love. Of these three things, there are no laws against them, right? And what I want you to do and think about, and if you were to tattoo this on your skin, I could see you looking at these three things and understanding that your customers have faith in you, your customers have hope in you, and they need you to love them. They have faith and hope that you are going to get them the result when they give you $1 of their hard-earned money, and that is going to return to them in a way. And they are putting a lot of reliance on you in order to create that. So when we put out good karma in the marketplace, or good vibes, or whatever it is, right? Faith, hope, and love, right? These are the three core values of any business that's going to succeed in the long term, right? And so allow your customers faith in you to not be disappointed, right? And that's only done by making sure and holding their hand and guiding them to getting the result. You know, you at a mastermind event a couple years ago, you did an exercise, and it was something like you would drop a bottle in the middle of the room and then ask somebody to lead you to that bottle. And most people would give you auditory things telling you on how to get to the bottle. And it was an exercise on leadership. And essentially what you would do is you'd get up and you'd go grab their hand and pull them to the bottle and be like, that's leadership. If you're selling something, somebody's putting their faith and their hope in you to get them the result. Grab their hand and lead them to the bottle.
Yep. God, I love that. And now for everybody wondering, if you want to know about that exercise, you're going to have to come to one of my events, because we're not sharing all the secrets, but it lands like a ton of bricks. And it really is the definition of customer journey. And Josh, I couldn't have said that any better. And I remember that verse. I don't know which one it is, but I love the faith, hope, and love, and the tie-in, because really that's the way that people are going to win. And that's the way that we should always win, and the way that we should always do business, because we're leaving a legacy way beyond us. And it's not about how much money we make. It's about how people feel when we're done, the results that they have. And for me, like, quite frankly, how people talk about me when I'm gone, to my son and to my kids, and know the impact that we made. And so it's an invitation, because the world is full of obstacles right now, but it's also full of opportunities for us to go deeper and care about people. And who thought that would be the best strategy and tactic in the game of business? I don't know, but I'm a big fan of it, and I think the world can use more of it. And so I just appreciate you being here, man. I love this. I love how much we crammed into 45 minutes.
Oh my God.
And how fun it is. And it's good to have our coffee chats, and we'll definitely do a round 2. And so just thank you for being here, man.
Yeah, for sure. The AI one is like, now I have that as an open loop in my brain. So if anybody's listening to this and you have that open loop, I apologize in advance until next time. But George, dude, it's been such an honor. I honor you. I appreciate you. I'm grateful for the relationship that I have with you.
Me too, bro. So just start writing down AI notes and close the loop, and then we'll hit whatever you come up with, and we'll just do an entire podcast on whatever open loops you have.
Yeah.
So for everybody listening, just a stark reminder that I don't want you to allow any of this to become shelf help. Pick up one nugget, pick up one thing, one perspective shift, and put it into practice, right? Because you're worth it, and it will work when you work it. And it requires practice, and it requires reps, but focusing on the right things, building deep relationships, and having focus is where you're going to win the game. And so we'll see you soon. You'll either hear me in the next episode, or you will see me in your earball. You'll see me in the next episode, or you'll hear me in your earballs. But either way, we're out.